Central banks are cutting rates and inflation looks as though it's been tamed. I'll tell you what this means for buyers and sellers on BC's beautiful Sunshine Coast.
It's been a couple months since I sat across the table from you on the podcast.
I've missed you.
I missed you too. It's mutual, yeah. There seems to be a lot going on in the real estate market right now, and I'm wondering if you can kind of give me a Cole's Notes of what we've seen on the Sunshine Coast here this fall.
Yeah, so it's been pretty slow. I think anyone that watches this regularly knows that we had that big spike when COVID happened. We had a different kind of demographic of buyers that were coming here. A lot of people came, thought they'd never have to go back to work. The ferry went from being a barrier to the market to a benefit to the market, and prices spiked. We went prior to COVID, we were slightly less median house price than Chilliwack. COVID happened when our above Chilliwack on our median house price, right? Even though we're a landlocked peninsula and ferry access only, like our prices kind of went through the roof. Mm-hmm. We've seen that adjust, right? So I think in my estimation, we've probably dropped about 40%.
From the peak? From the peak.
To where we are now. On average, it's a generalisation on kind of home sales. So there are people that are caught, especially the ones that bought cottages and that kind of thing to do Airbnb, and then all of a sudden they can't. We've touched on that before. So there's a lot of inventory. There's a lot of motivated sellers out there. And there's a lot of hawkish buyers that are sitting on the fence and thinking, when is the time to buy? When, what are we going to do? So I think that this reduction that the central bank's made, 50 basis points, although it doesn't really bode well for the Canadian economy moving into next year, it could be enough for those buyers that are on the fence, that we might not be at the very bottom of the market, but we're close. They've got an interest rate reduction. So I think November, specifically the Sunshine Coast, is going to be quite busy. And then beyond that, it's up in the air, right? I personally think that we're still softening. We're still going to see, values kind of drop until we get to probably spring next year. And then who knows, depending on what's happening, with other variables in the market.
The other thing that's happened since I was on last with you is that we had a provincial election here.
Yeah.
And the ultimate result is still up in the air, but it looks like it's going to be some kind of a minority government with the NDP being propped up by the Greens. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for the Sunshine Coast real estate market? Does it have any impact on the Sunshine Coast real estate market?
I think so, yeah. First of all, I just wanted to thank Chris Moore. Mm-hmm. Wish him congratulations again. He had a pretty good run, I think. And obviously, congratulations to Randy Neal, and she's the rep here for the Sunshine Coast.
That's right.
As far as, the NDP's housing policies, that kind of stuff, there's been some stuff that they've done, such as the banning of the short-term rentals, that has had a negative effect on the Sunshine Coast, just increasing that inventory of people needing to sell those units.
Right.
And then also, for businesses, obviously not having as much accommodation for people to stay, it hurts tourism a little bit. The thing that they've talked about doing, and I don't know if it's done yet or they have to pass it, I'm not sure how any of that works, but they were assisting first-time buyers with lower interest loans or guaranteed a percentage of their down payment or whatever it was to help them get into the market. Mm-hmm. And then there's also been what we were talking about off camera, those federal changes where you can get the insured mortgages up to 1.5 million.
That's right.
Where it used to be $1 million. So that's those two things I think would be good for the Sunshine Coast. And it may be enough, just given our house prices and our lifestyle, to start to attract some of those younger buyers again to come over this way. When I first bought here, and a lot of people bought here 15 years ago or before, you'd be looking at homes. Like I remember myself, I was looking at a townhouse in Maple Ridge. $700,000. And then I came here and I bought a detached home for like $240,000, right? So the price, it's not such a huge price advantage here now compared to different parts of the province, but it is still enough, I think, with some of these incentives and some of the stimulation that the NDP provincially is doing and the federal government is doing on a national basis, that it may stimulate and make the coast appealing enough, giving our price points. To kind of get newer buyers over here or a different demographic, the guys that we saw happening in COVID. Mm-hmm. So that's what I could see happening with the policy that they're talking about.
If we've got sellers that are looking to sell here over the winter between, like, let's say now and February, what is your advice to sellers in this market?
I think November is going to be busy, right? For all the things that we kind of talked about. I think that, you know, there's a lot of buyers on the fence that are now going to probably be pulling the trigger, feeling confident that, you know, this purchase for the next 5 years, it's not going to get much better than buying right now. So I think it's going to be busy in November. The main thing is price your property appropriately. Having an overpriced property, thinking that you're leaving room to negotiate, it isn't the market to do that, right? In a seller's market, yeah, you can overprice a property and then the market will catch up to it. You might sit for 45 days, but you're going to end up selling. In this market, if you overprice a property, you're just not going to sell. And if the market continues to soften, you're going to have to reduce the price even further to sell it. Whereas if you just priced it appropriately to begin with, that would be what I'd do. The other thing is, you know, you want to have curb appeal. You only get one chance to make a first impression. Right. So, you know, if you are listing your property, make sure that you're putting your best foot forward as far as presenting. Make sure that you allow access to the property for people that want to show it. If you are sitting with a vacant property now that was rented out before, I would keep it vacant while you try to sell it. One, it's a pain. It's hard to get a tenant to come in anyway if you've got a property listed for sale. And it's not really fair to them if you don't tell them that and they come in and rent it and then they've got to put up with showings and that kind of stuff because they're going to have to move. But with the new tenancy rules as well, it's 3 months notice, 3 full months notice, right?
Okay.
So if you were to list it in November and you get an offer in November, then December, January, February, people can't move in until March, right? So if you have a tenanted property, it reduces the potential buyer pool to buy that property. So that's one thing that, you know, if given the choice, obviously if you already got a rented property, that's whatever. But given the choice, I think it would probably be worth taking that hit for the mortgage payments for a month and having it vacant to be able to sell, as opposed to putting a tenant in, because that can be at the moment a bit of the kiss of death for selling a property in a reasonable time frame. So. Yeah, that's the stuff that I think you got to make sure you do. Price it right, work with the buyers as much as you can, and really try to make a good positive first impression. So keep it clean and tidy, decluttered, that type of stuff. So yeah.
Flip that around. What is your advice for buyers over that same time period?
Buyers, I think, work with a buyer's agent that knows the market. If you're going to lowball something, which we're getting a lot of that now, but people are lowballing and saying, well, this is all I can afford. So, there's no real argument, stop looking at houses you can't afford. So, I think that as a buyer, there hasn't been a much better time to buy somewhere, especially not if you're looking to flip a home. If you're looking to buy it and do it up and flip it, this might not be the time to be doing that. But if you are looking to buy and it's a 5-year or a 10-year home, or it's your forever home or whatever it is, there isn't a much better time than now. So if you are looking at a home and you think it's overpriced, do your research, get your agent to do the research, and as you present that lower offer than they might be doing, say this is why we're doing it. Try to, obviously you've got to have subjects to protect yourself, inspection, that kind of thing. But if you're working with a realtor and they do up an offer, and you have the title and you have the PDS and you have all the title documents, go through them. Don't have those subjects in there. The less subjects are better. And a lot of times what I'll see is just subjects that don't need to be in there. And so then when that's presented to a seller, the seller's like, oh, they got all these subjects. It's less impactful. Obviously a cash offer is king.
Right.
But if you just have a couple of subjects on there, so a nice clean offer, back up why you have the prices, why you have that price. Talk to your agent about a strategy for buying strategy and where you think you might end up, and then be willing to walk away. If you can't get that deal, be willing to walk away, because it is a buyer's market at the moment, and there were many, many years that it wasn't that way, and buyers were kind of screwed. They had to go in, take a number, put an offer down. There was 15 other ones, and it's not like there was any sympathy from the sellers at that time. So, it's fine to go in and be aggressive with your offers, but be able to back it up, and realize that, if you're working with a good local agent, you're much more likely to be successful than someone parachuting in from out of market. That really does my head in, is when and I'm primarily a listing agent. So, it's fine. I represent my sellers. It's great. But I got someone coming in. They don't know the market. They have no idea about value. They don't know how septic systems work, for example, or how to get a well water check done, or any of that kind of thing. And they're friends with these people, but I don't think they're doing their clients any favors or their friends any favors coming over and doing this. They're better off referring them to someone local that knows the market, taking their referral fee so they still get paid and putting them in the hands of someone that's going to actually represent them and help them, find that home, understands the neighbourhoods, that kind of thing. So that'd be the other thing that I'd recommend to a buyer, even if it's your sister-in-law and she works in West Van and, she's holidayed here a couple of times, that kind of stuff. She still isn't probably the best person to come over and represent you in a market that she doesn't know. You want to get a local agent that knows what they're doing, that does a lot of activity, and that would be the main thing. And then if you get that agent, then you've got someone giving you the advice that I'm giving you now, right? To try to make you successful in that offer or that bid.
There are so many little things about the Sunshine Coast that you don't realize till you're here for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I agree. It would have been really nice when we came if we'd have had somebody to kind of hold our hand and walk us through it and explain, there's no fire department coverage here. And this neighborhood is on septic and on this neighborhood's on a well and all the rest. And I think you're really well served, like you said, by having a local buyer's agent. If you're not familiar with the area yourself.
When we used to do those little neighborhood videos and stuff, I remember what we were talking about doing it like someone sitting in Heritage Hills just enjoying a glass of wine and smelling barbecue and be like, delicious. And then there's like a funeral procession and the crematorium's going in the background, right? Yeah. Or like if you're over by, Stewart Road or whatever, when not anymore, it's all sorted out now, but when they had those problems with that sewage plant there, you'd sit there, what the hell is that smell? So there's little things like that, and also where chat, like a lot of questions I get is like the two biggest things that everyone's asking me about now, and I don't know why, but one's the sinkholes again. And I think you said that's the most reported thing on the Sunshine Coast.
That's what I find
of all time.
I hear that all the time from people off the Sunshine Coast wanting to know when we're going to fall into a hole, and I'm like, that's not. Yeah, really. And then the other big thing is the water. Right? We're running out of water, which is, again, as an Australian that comes from a place where it's a desert and we get about 300 millimetres of rain per year, we get that in like 2 weeks here and there's no way to catch the water and we're running out of water. It's kind of crazy. But they'll ask me, they say, where's Chapman Creek? Which areas does that service? Where's on well? Who's on a community septic? If there's issues with that particular community septic. All that kind of, where do I go to get information on this house? Is this, even though it's like Gibsons, it's really Langdale, that's SCRD. Yeah. Once you go by Pratt Road, that's SCRD, but it looks like Gibsons. So you'd have no way of knowing any of that stuff unless you're with someone that knows that kind of market. And it is quite a big deal, especially, on the coast, to make sure that, for a septic system, for example, there's a lot of realtors that have never dealt with that. They don't know how to do with that. I get offers sometimes, the homes on septic. Again, I represent the seller, so I'm not going to point it out to them, but if it was me, I would have definitely done a septic inspection and figured it out, but they just don't know, right? So so that would be a couple of things that you'd want to know and why working with a local agent would be your best bet, Talking about it being a buyer's market, something I see a lot online are the same properties being relisted over and over again, sometimes with different agents. It could be for like a year or even 2 years sometimes, and the price doesn't really move much. Are those unmotivated sellers? Are those people that maybe don't really know what's going on with the market? And why would you bother to try to sell your house if you're not getting offers on it?
Definitely unmotivated sellers. My experience with people like that is, you also get serial open house lookers. You get these people that come around to open houses all the time and, that's kind of their afternoon. So I don't know. I think maybe psychologically there could be an element of the population that enjoys the experience of working with a real estate agent and having it listed. And, maybe they're messy people. I mean, I think you could take that to the bank. If someone's had the home on the market for longer than 18 months, they're dirty, messy people. No, I think ultimately they're just, if the shoe fits, I think ultimately what happens is that they're unmotivated sellers. They've got an idea in their mind that they got this price and maybe they're underwater on the property, right? Maybe they overpaid for it. And they said, until I sell it, it's like stocks, right? I haven't lost any money as long as I don't sell. Right. So maybe that's it. But I think you hit the nail on there. They're unmotivated sellers. They maybe overpriced it to begin with and didn't adjust in time. And so rather than chase the market down, they've just got an elephant that's sitting there and not going to sell. And eventually, it will sell. I mean, maybe they're on a 7-year listing contract. You never know. Right. Yeah. They could be waiting for that to happen. But so some people aren't motivated and they're tough for agents to work with people that don't need to sell, or aren't motivated to sell, or, they're just kind of speculating and seeing what they can get for their house. And they're not really doing themselves any favors. Obviously, the agents, aren't particularly happy having those properties and working all that way and not selling. Because as an agent, right, sometimes you get a listing, you do all your stuff, you get your photos, you do your marketing, blah, 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 and it goes up and it sells immediately. And you're like, yeah, been in real estate's awesome. And then you get properties where, you'll be working with the client for 2.5 years. You've done, 48 open houses. You've worked on 7 offers that haven't come together or whatever it is. And then eventually it sells and you do the math and you're like, yeah, I'm on minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I've lost money on this particular one just based on the amount of time that you've put in. So, those properties sitting on the market as well are not, they're adding to the inventory. They're becoming, bad comparisons for everybody else that's listed. And, it creates, either more of a balance or more of a buyer's market because there's all these properties that are sitting there not selling. The other thing that does happen as well is it's called buying a listing, right? So some agents, there'll be 3 agents in a listing presentation and I'll be in there and, give them a price that I'm pretty confident on. And then someone else will go in and say, $150,000 more, we'll be able to get you that. What normally happens in that scenario is you buy the listing and then you go in and say, we got to do an adjustment. Once the agent has made them, endeared themselves to the seller, then they establish that trust. They go, by the way, I was wrong on that. The other agents were right, but you're with me now. Let's put the price down here. But it doesn't necessarily always go that way. And so that can backfire as well. And so there are agents that do that and avoid those hard conversations after the fact with the buyer. So when I started as a real estate agent, I do that all the time. I'd go out and think I could do whatever. I'd end up with a whole bunch of overpriced listings.
Yeah. And
then I'd babysit those listings so they end up, relisting and selling with someone else.
Okay.
So it can also be inexperience on the side of the agent. It can also be like maybe their friend, they just moved here or their friend just got their real estate license or someone that's, not a great realtor somewhere else is over here listing their house because they don't have the inventory or they're not successful enough in their own area. And so this family member lets them do it, but the family members tell them what to do. There's so many potential variables, but I think in general, they're just unmotivated sellers.
Tony.
Yes, Paul.
What do you have on the market for November
Paul,
2024?
What don't I have? All right, so the first one I want to talk about, 1701 YMCA Road. It's a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom, beautiful place. It's 2,500 square foot. It has a suite in the bottom. It's not an authorised suite, but it'd be great for extended family or guests or that kind of stuff. And I believe if you're living in the home, you could probably Airbnb that suite and it'd be in compliance with all of the rules and regulations and that kind of stuff. So that one's now $949,000. It's on a huge lot. Well, not huge, but it's pretty big, especially compared to city lots. It's 9,500 square feet on that lot. Lots of parks in there. It's really a great spot, and it's in Langdale. So I'll attach that great video we did in Langdale.
I'll add that onto the podcast.
That'll be beautiful, yeah. Then we got Bridgeman. So Bridgeman, that was an estate sale, but now probate's come through, so that's able to be bought and moved in on. That one is 1.5 acres right at the bottom of North Road there. Beautiful view, panoramic, stunning view, beautiful big property. So that one's a great opportunity, and that one's easy to show.
That one's got a big shop on it too.
Humongous, yeah, 3-car garage on it. Lots of power. Great opportunity. It does need updating. But, it's definitely for the right person. All the infrastructure's kind of there, and it's just a matter of, some cosmetic upgrades and stuff. So that one's pretty cool. And then Velvet Road. So we just did a price reduction on that. It was $799 before. It's now $784, so it's come down $15,000. Wicked view, nice big lot, bit of it's ravine. The guy selling it is a landscaper, so it's just manicured everything there. It looks beautiful. And, real close to Bonnybrook Beach and, right next to Cedar Grove Elementary. So if it's a family or whatever moving in there, then that's a good option too.
And that's a real quiet street. It's a cul-de-sac at the end.
It is, yeah.
It's quiet. It's private. I've been in that neighborhood before. It's very nice.
Yeah, very good, yeah. So, yeah, cool. So that's they're the 3 highlights for this month. And it's great to have you back. I missed you.
It's always good to be back. I missed you too, buddy.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Right, let's never be apart again. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. While you're here, maybe you want to check out one of my listings or watch my video about why you should choose me to sell your home.